On this channel, I share some of the lessons I'm learning while making my indie apps. I'm finally getting to it. I'm building my very first app. To design it, I decided to use Material Design 3. If you don't know what Material Design 3 is, it is Google's open source design system. Material 3 is the latest version of it, and the website m3.material.io includes UX and UI guidelines for using Material to design for Android and the web. It covers layouts, interactions, color, typography, components, and more. I will talk about the general process and lessons I learned while wireframing and designing my application using Material 3 Design Kit in Figma in another video. In this video, I want to focus on just one component, the floating action button, FAB. Material 3 has a free Figma kit. It includes all the components from the Material 3 website as pre-built Figma components. You can use them directly in your design, or, as we will do in this video, you can build your components on top of them. One of the components of Material 3 is the floating action button. But what is a FAB? Here are some of the things mentioned about the FAB on the Material 3 website. The FAB represents the most important action on a screen. It puts key actions within reach. The FAB should persist on the screen when content is scrolling. The FAB appears in front of all other content on the screen and is recognizable for its rounded shape and icon in the center. Extended FABs help people take primary action. Extended FABs are the most prominent type of button. FAB promotes important constructive actions such as create, favorite, share, start a process. So there is a FAB component and there is an extended FAB component. They share many of the same features with some differences. For example, an extended FAB can be more effective when an icon alone might be ambiguous. An extended FAB is wider as it has a label and it provides a larger target. So basically, a FAB or an extended FAB gives the main action a more prominent position, making it more likely that the user would take that action. It makes that action feel more important. It's not a part of a single component like a card, for example. It shows the main action for the whole screen, and it could be used across multiple screens. Let's look at some of the real-life apps which use a FAB. Google Keep has a FAB embedded in its bottom nav that allows the user to quickly create a new note. Gmail has an extended FAB placed on the bottom right side of the screen that allows the user to quickly send a new email message. Not all apps need to have a FAB. YouTube, for example, doesn't have one. This is just an overview. If you visit the components page for the FAB and the extended FAB, you'll find links to them in the description as well as in the Figma file. You'll find specs and guidelines on color, placement, some do's and don'ts, and everything that has to do with the FAB and its use. So let me share with you how I used a FAB in the design of my app. Here's a part of the wireframe I drew for my application. The app I want to make will have one primary action and one secondary action. The primary action is to add a new workout, and the secondary is to add a new exercise. I wanted a FAB that I can click to show two other floating action buttons. This is inspired by my Net Diary, an app that I use to track my calories. And I like the way they have a FAB for the main action of adding. When you click it, multiple FABs appear for you to choose what you want to add exactly. And I implemented something like this in my design. A central FAB. When clicked, it changes to a dismiss button and shows two other actions with the label text outside. But since the extended FAB allows for a label next to an icon, I thought there is no need to create a custom component when there is one already designed to do the same thing. So I improved on it and I used two extended FABs on top of each other. No need for a dismiss button. If I want to dismiss adding, I can just click anywhere outside the buttons. And to make the separation between the primary and secondary actions, I used color instead of size. I chose a primary extended FAB component for the main action, and it already has a primary container color style set to it. But one thing to note is that this is not the recommended way of using a FAB. The Material 3 design system states to never place two FABs or two extended FABs on one page, and instead use a menu, or if you must, use one FAB or one extended FAB with a small FAB on top of it. In my case, I don't want to use a fab or a small fab because I need a label, as the icons I have are not telling on their own what the action is. I also don't want to use a menu, so I stuck to this solution instead of the recommended one. So now let's just get to it and create this from scratch. To start, we will get a copy of the Material 3 design kit in Figma. You find a link to it in the description of this video. It's a free Figma community file, so just press on Get a Copy, and it will be added into your drafts folder, and it will open a new tab as a new Figma file. Obviously, you should be logged into your Figma account. Inside the file, you find the components page, which includes all the Material 3 components. The styles page has color and typography styles, icons and other elements. So start working directly in this file. Let's create a new page where our design will be. To create a new page, in the Layers panel, press on Add a New Page. I will name it Design. And let's add a frame to hold our design. So to add a frame, grab the Frame tool from the toolbar above, or just press the F key. And let's make it an Android large device. Now let's go to the Styles page and grab one of those device frames. And let's go for the light theme. So select the device component, the light theme variant, and press Command C to grab an instance of it. Head back to our design page, select our frame, and press Command V to paste the instance inside our frame. It's out of place, so let's resize it to fit inside our frame. And we want it to stick to all sides of our frame, no matter what device we use. And as you can see, it's currently constrained to left and top. So let's also constrain it to right, so left and right, and top and bottom. Now the frames inside it, we cannot directly resize them. To be able to resize them, we have to go to the main component. So select the device frame, and to go to the main component, Figma makes this pretty easy. Just go to the design panel and press on this button, go to main component. Now that we are in the main component, let's change the constraints of the frames inside our component. Select the frame on top and change its constraints from left and top to left and right and top. Then select the frame at the bottom and also change the constraints from left and top to left and right and bottom. And to return to our instance, all you need to do is press on this button over here. Now, as you can see, everything is already in place. And now if we change the device we want to present our design inside, for example, if we go to an iPhone SE, you will see that the device component is sticking to it. Right, let's find the FAB component, so head to the components page. There are many components, but they are organized inside frames. So instead of zooming in and searching for the FAB, just find the FAB in the Layers panel and press Shift 2 to zoom in on it. And you find the extended FABs at the bottom. We will grab an instance of the primary extended FAB, but before we do this, we want this to be an interactive design, a prototype, to look and feel as close to the real app as possible. So let's add some connections to these components. We will only use the primary and secondary extended FABs, so let's update the connections only for those. Alright, so select the enabled state of the primary extended FAB, then switch to prototype settings by pressing on this tab over here, or by just pressing the shortcut key Shift E. And then grab one of those nodes and connect it from the enabled state to the hovered state. Now the interaction details is going to pop open. And the type of the default interaction is on click. So let's change this to while hovering. So while hovering, the enabled state is going to change to the hovered state. You can also change the type of animation, but I will leave it to instant. So now when we hover above the enabled state, it's going to change to the hovered state. Now select the hovered state and make a connection to the pressed state. And edit the interaction details from on click to while pressing. So while pressing, change from the hovered state to the pressed state with an instant animation. And we will do the same thing for the secondary extended FAB. So again, make connection from the enabled state to the hovered state and change it from on click to while hovering. Then make a connection from the hovered state to the pressed state and change it from on click to while pressing. Now we can change back to design mode by pressing Shift E. And let's take an instant of the primary extended FAB. So select it and press Command C. Get back to our design. Outside of the device, press Command V. Now let's customize our instance. So change the text to add. And to change the icon, select it. And inside the design panel, we can swap the instance with a different icon. So just find the add icon and press on it, and it will change to it. Now before we drop this into our design, let's strap it into a component, because we'll create an open state for it soon. So select it and press on this button, Create Component, and I will name this one Custom Extended FAB. So basically we are using the Material 3 component as a building block for our custom component. And now we can take an instance of it and drop it into our frame. So just press and hold the Alt key and drag and drop inside our frame. You can see through these dotted lines that it is constrained to left and top, but we want it to be always constrained to bottom and right. So let's change those constraints. And let's leave 16 pixels between it and the device of the frame. So you can press the Alt key to get these measurements to know exactly what is the distance between it and between other elements. 16 pixels I think is the recommended spacing between the FAB and the device of the frame by Material 3. Also there will be a bottom navbar under it. We can just grab one quickly from the components and drop it into our frame. Move it to the bottom, put it in place, and change its constraints to bottom and left and right. And just move our FAB 16 pixels above it. At this stage we can present our design, so select our device. Before you present it, just press on the canvas and go to Prototype and make sure that it is set to the same device we have, so also to an Android large device. Then select our device and press on the Present button, and the Present mode will open in a new tab. Now to test this component, just hover above it and you can see that it's changing from the enabled state to the hovered state, and press on it and you can see that it's changing from the hovered state to the pressed state. Right, now we want to be able to tap it to show the other two FABs, so let's make an open state variant. So select our custom extended FAB, and to add a variant to it, press on this button, Add Variant. Also, let's switch back to design mode. So our component now has one property called property 1, and the value for property 1 here is default, and here is variant 2. So let's change this to something meaningful. Let's change property 1 to state, and let's change variant 2 to open, because this will be our open state. You can leave this to default, or you can just change it to enabled. The open state will have two FABs on top of each other. So select the extended FAB inside the open state and press Command C, Command V to duplicate it. Now the open state already has an auto layout frame around our two extended FABs. You can press here on Update and then change from the horizontal direction to a vertical direction. And also change the spacing between items to 16 pixels. Now let's update the text of the buttons. So I'll just keep double clicking here, and then I will change this to workout. And here for the extended FAB on top, let's first change it from primary. So the configuration property, change it from primary to secondary. it's exactly the same thing, but the color is different. And let's change the text to exercise. Again, to change the icons, we select the icon component and swap the instance. But in this case, none of those icons, none of the icons that we have in the styles page is suitable. So we need to find one somewhere else. So press on resources and press on plugins and write material. Then run the material symbols plugin. And let's search for icons that we can use. So I'll just write sprint. Now I'll use this icon for the workout. But before I drop the icon, let's change to the styles page. And let's zoom in on this icons frame, select it, and press on the sprint icon so that it would be added inside that frame. And let's find another icon to use for the exercise button. And I would go with this fitness center icon. So press on it. Oh, it changed it. So we have to deselect it first. So just deselect this one, then select the sprint icon. And you can close the plugin. And let's put these icons in place. And if you select any of the other icons on this page, you can see that they are all components and they are all named in the same way, with icons / before their actual name. And also, they all have a 24 pixel width and height frame. So let's select the sprint icon. It already has 24 pixels frame. So let's turn it into a component and let's rename this component in the same way. So icons / then sprint. This allows Figma to group components together. So when you are swapping instances, you will find those two new icons in the same group as the icons group. Now let's select the fitness center icon, turn it into a component by pressing on create component button over here and rename it also to icons / fitness center. Right, so let's select the add icon in the workout button and let's try to swap the instance and look for the sprint icon. It's not there. That means that we've done something wrong. Right, so those two icons are not actually inside the icons frame. So just select them and drop them inside the icons frame from the layers panel. Let's get back to our design. Let's try again. Select the add icon and search for the sprint icon and you'll find it there. So now I'm not sure if you have to actually name them in the same way or you just need to drop them inside the same frame. Maybe you need to do both. Right, so let's select the sprint icon to swap our icon with it. And let's do the same for the add icon here in the exercise button. So tap to select the icon component, then swap the instance and look for the barbell icon over here and press on it to swap the instance. Now if we have a look at our device frame over here, we can swap the instance manually. So change the state from enabled to open and it will work. But for this to work when we present our design, we have to make a prototype connection. We can do this the same way we did the hover and pressed states, so we can get back to our component here, select the enabled state, press Shift E to switch to prototype and grab one of those nodes, make a connection over here and leave the interaction to on tap, change to. And if we go to our prototype over here and we press on it, it will work. But how do we dismiss it? It doesn't work when I click outside. So then in this case, we will have to create a third FAB over here to be able to dismiss this interaction. This is going to take more space and is going to add an unnecessary step for the user. So instead, we can use an overlay. So let's switch back to design mode by pressing Shift E. And let's take an instance of the open state. So just press and hold the Alt key and drag and drop it outside. And this instance will act as our overlay. So select the enabled state again, switch back to prototype settings by pressing Shift E and remove this connection. And let's make a new connection between the enabled state and our instance over here. And let's change this connection from, let's leave it as on tap, but let's change it from navigate to open overlay. And to decide exactly where the overlay will open, if we leave it as centered, it will open in the center of the page. So let's change it to manual, and this thing will appear. So let's just change its position so that when it opens, it covers our button. So it opens exactly on top of it. Also make sure to check close when clicking outside so that when we click outside of those buttons, the overlay will be closed. We can also add a background behind our overlay and leave the animation as instant. Right, so let's head back to presentation again. I'll press R to reset and let's try it out. So press on it is going to change, and as you can see the screen is dimmed a little bit, and if I press outside it dismisses the interaction. And now we're done, but we can also make connections to pages. So let's quickly add a couple of pages just by taking copies of this page over here. So I'll just add 2 pages. Let's remove the FABs from here because these are not one of the main navigation pages. And we're not going to make a complete design, so let's just add text over here. Switch back to design and let's write back. So this will act as our back button. Let's add another text box over here and this will act as our title. So this will be new workout. Let's actually delete this page and take copy of this one. And let's change this text to new exercise. Let's change the size of those to a medium display size, and let's center them. Right. First let's add connections from the overlay to these pages. So select the workout fab and press Shift E to switch to prototype and then make a connection to the new workout page. And the interaction details is on tap, navigate to with an instant animation. That's what we want. Here, also make another connection from the exercise to the new exercise page. On tap, navigate to. Alright. Now let's add the back interactions. So let's select the back text over here. And to add an interaction, just press on this plus button. Then press on the interaction to edit its details. And let's make it, instead of on tap, let's make it... Oh, let's leave it as on tap, but let's make it back. So on tap, it's going to go to the previous page that we were on. And again, to this button, the same thing. Tap, back. Right, let's go to our prototype. I'll press R to reset. We have ourselves a mini prototype here. So we have a FAB button. If we hover above it, it's going to change to the hover state. If we press on it, it's going to change to the press state. And if we tap it, it's going to change into 2 other FABs. If we click outside, we can dismiss them. And also if we hover above those FABs, they also change their state. Now, if I click on the workout FAB, we're going to navigate to the workout page. And if I press on the back text over here, I will go back to my main page. Again, if I click on exercise, I will navigate to exercise. And if I click on back, I'm back to the main page. And that is it for this one. If you made it to the end of this video, I hope you found this helpful. Your feedback on how to improve these videos would be very much appreciated, and thank you very much for watching.